Well, if you all would stand with me and take your hymnals and turn them to page number 2. Hymn number 2, Glory to His Name.
Thank you. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you to our pianist and Brother Andy, always faithful to be here. We appreciate that. If you don't have a bulletin and you need one, make sure you let us know. Anybody need a bulletin? Want to keep up with what's going on? Well, in the bulletin, we have a reminder to keep up with your attendance, and Sunday school teachers need to keep up with that. And then we also want to remember to kind of watch out for those nurseries. I said it Sunday, it's those big metal doors, they sure would do a wallop on a little child's hand. So if you could just kind of make sure if you need something in there, just knock on the door and they can come to the door and bring you what you need. We'd like to thank the donor for our new vacuum, and we're excited about that, and it runs around here. It takes 2 charges to vacuum this whole auditorium, and we're glad that it's doing a great job. And so we do still have a leak over at the fellowship building. If you would like to try to tackle that project, I'm more than happy for you too. Mrs. Heather Ball has continued to update the band app. So if you aren't up to date with the band app, go and get on there. And there are ways that you can link that calendar to your own calendar on your phone. You'd have to talk to somebody a little better at that than I am. But then youth campers are gone, and they are there. It's been an eventful week already, and you pray for them as they're there. The first night, the big storm came. You remember the big, well, we get it. We got Tuesday morning early, didn't we? I think it took a while to get here. They had tornado sirens and everything else. Little girls screaming, them and Brother Carmen, and they were just all terrified. No, Brother Carmen, he's the one told me, he said, "Oh, Pastor, it got bad." And I said, "Oh, the storm was bad?" He said, "No, the little girls, they got bad." And so they'll be back. I believe they come back Friday. Is that right? Anybody know? I don't have. I've only got like 4 children there, so okay, Friday it is. So they'll be back Friday. Usually it's afternoon. Sometimes takes 5 to 6 hours to get back, and depending on stops. Brother Gamble, we started on our way back home from camp. Only a 3-hour tour. Thank you. And I set sail. We're heading. One of the boys pipes up in the bus. "Yeah, I ate more donuts this morning than I ever did. I think I have the record." I went, "You did what?" "And I drank like 5 glasses of milk." "You did what?" "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, "You better be." By the time we got from Versailles to Seymour, I had 7 young people sick because he was very ill. And he didn't keep his illness to himself, let me put it that way. It was so bad I had to go to Walmart, let all the kids get out of the bus. I cleaned the bus and bought him new pants and a new shirt. Literally that awful. And I said, "Okay, new rule. 1 donut and a half glass of milk is all you need to get you home." Oh, it was bad. What memories. And the times they'd come back, I didn't shower all week. I didn't take 1 shower, and they're proud of it. And I'd say, "Hey, Steph, sit with that girl." Fun times. We're installing the new double doors. Talk to Brother Duncan. I think he's going to try and get that done maybe this week and maybe next. Talk to him. He'll give you exact times. Those are going to be very, very heavy doors. They'll look like the doors here. It's going to look a lot nicer, and they're basically the same doors we have in this building, so it'll look uniform building to building. And then a reminder, I just want to thank you all for going to the Glenburn service. I know it's a blessing to the residents. And then we have a deacons and trustees meeting next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, at 4:45. And then continue to pray for the Swargas as they continue the great work there in New Zealand. And then pray for our nation. And we can come up with all the reasons and all of that. Well, people need Jesus. That's really the long and short of it. And why do evil people do evil things? Well, they don't have the Lord, and we just understand that. So, well, at this time, I'll have you shut those two lights out, and then we'll come over here. We're going to get into our lesson this evening. We're going to continue our lesson. Last week we talked, or last time I was with you, we talked about Noah. And tonight we're going to continue that. There are just a few other things I'd like for you to remember about Old Faithful Noah. There are so many doctrines we can touch on with the life of Noah. There are so many applicable things in his life. Let me kill those two. That we could talk about. And so I want to finish up. I want to finish this lesson a little more strong than what we had. Hebrews 11:7, by faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. Noah, faith building. Faith building. To the saving of his house. Let's think about this for just a moment. Noah was the eighth. Only 7 others had he reached in his ministry, but he never stopped. The true test of one's faith is the sense of failure. So when we come to our faith, it will be tested. And my faith is usually tested when I feel like I failed. I feel like I failed. Or like I can't do the job. Old Moses went through this, didn't he? Moses, the Lord spoke to Moses, and while he was speaking to Moses, he said, I want you to lead the children of Israel. But I can't. I don't talk good. Or maybe he was just slow with words. I don't know exactly. I've always assumed it was a stutter. What Moses was missing was he didn't think he could do the job, but God knew he could. And so in your life, you might have this sense of failure, like, oh, I can't do it, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have the ability. But you have to stop and say, if God gave me the opportunity, He will give me the ability. If this is where the Lord wants me, He will give me the ability to do the job. My dad and I laugh, and he says, son, sometimes an elephant, it's not that an elephant can't climb a tree or can climb a tree. Sometimes an elephant has to climb a tree. And sometimes it just you have to. You just have to get up and get about it. And you say, well, I won't be the best. Well, that's okay. That's okay. I remember when I came to Calvary, I had taken song leading classes in Bible college, and I despised them. They made you stand in front of everybody and sing. Number one thing I did not like. Number next was you had to wave your hand around. And that made me feel silly. And then, number next, it was rhythm. And I just don't have any rhythm. The last thing is, they put the girls in the room with us that you were trying to impress. I've never in my life heard a Bible college girl say, "Oh, I think he's cute." Really? What's cute about him? The way he leads singing. You know, I've never heard that. I've never heard someone say, "Did you see? He was ugly till he started leading that music. Boy, that sure changed a game." No. Ethan got up here. Part of him, he looked a little scared tonight. Were you scared tonight? A little scared tonight. A little intimidating. The professor of my college kept me after class because most of my classes I was doing really well in, but I did not like his, so I didn't try. It's a problem with a lot of young people. They don't do well because they don't care and they don't want to. He kept me after class, gave everybody else a coffee break, and he unloaded on me widely both barrels. He got finished. I stood up, I looked at him, and I said, "Just remember this, God called me to preach and not to lead the singing." Now, this was a man that was not called to preach. I felt pretty pious. I was pretty proud of myself. Looked like that big old Tom with 3 beards, you know. And I walked out and came to Calvary, and Dad called me in his office, said, "So-and-so's leaving. I need you to start leading the singing and the choir." "Yes, sir." I walked out and I laughed because God immediately reminded me. I had said so many things in Bible college, but God has a way of taking the one sinful, arrogant thing that you say and putting it back in front of you and saying, "Did you remember?" But at that age of maturity, if God opens the door, I'm just going to step through. I'll try. I don't know much about running an auger. Didn't stop Brother Duncan and I. Came out here and had that auger on the back of a tractor. We had another guy. Neither one of us were on the tractor out here when we were putting in the playground. Put in the playground, and we took out the main gas line. I mean, lots of gas. It was crazy. I didn't know how to do it, but we tried. We failed, but we tried. You keep going. You fall again. You're a just man. You get up and you keep going. It would have been easy for Noah to get his eyes off of the blueprint and onto the living quarters. And I said that specifically. Noah's got this big boat to build. What's Noah doing? He's a builder and he's a preacher. Building is a little more enjoyable because at the end of the day, you've got a wall. Noah wasn't just building. But at some point, he had to look and say, there's very little room in this ark that I'm building for people. I am to preach to a people that even by the blueprint, God himself knows will reject it. But I keep preaching. Well, I go door to door and I just don't get anybody and they just reject me and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But you know what we do? We go on. It's not our blueprint. We're to obey. Often we get discouraged. People don't recognize us. It feels like nobody cares if we're there. How many times have you felt that way? I can only imagine as a doctor or a nurse, if you had in a week, you had a couple patients that you lost, that would grieve you, that would sadden you that you lost a patient, or someone who works in the nursing home. It would sadden you enough that you, for at least a little while, would forget about all those lives that you've helped, because we're looking at the one time that you wanted to do it, but you just couldn't figure it out. It just didn't happen. I know that's the way in my life. As a pastor, there are people you want to help. Sometimes you just feel like you failed. You tried. And then there's other times where people say, "Preacher, you failed me. Wasn't my intention." I think I'd have to look it up, but it was the average pastor's time at a church is what, two years? Something like that. I'd have to look it up for 2024. They just don't make it. Just don't make it. I have two friends right now, both called to preach, both Bible college graduates. Both of them now playing guitars in bars. I don't know why. I don't know why Demas stopped, other than that he loved the present world. I don't know if that was discouraging, but I look at Noah and it reminds me that I have to place my faith when I don't see tangible victory, you know? Here is a tangible victory. Here is something today that I can put my hand on and say, "Hoorah! Was a great day." I did my job. I did it my very best, and I did it for your glory, and that's good enough. I did my very best, Lord, and I'm okay with that because I know you're okay with that. Old Noah just kept putting more gopher wood on, a little more pitch. It would have been easy for him just to say, "Wow, why preach tomorrow? I know how many rooms there are." But he didn't. There was surely a time where Noah saw that his preaching and warning would not produce fruit beyond his family. So we look at discouragement. I wanted to hit you with the negative first, because there is so much negative that is human nature, and I know that's not necessarily biblically written out. I believe it is the nature of man. Truly, Noah would have noticed that the ark only slept 8. This is obviously where faith in the work of God was greater than the eyes on the product. Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth." Sometimes our pride can get in there and say, "I need to be seen. I need to be exalted in what I do." I think thank yous are important. I think thank yous are very important. I think thank yous should not be sought. Oh, not as many that time. I should not give to you looking for you to thank me. That's not my motive. I give with a joyful heart, that joy of giving. How many of you are appropriate? They're dying. How many of you think thank you cards are appropriate? Yeah. I think Japheth even had his face on it, didn't it? It was nice. I have a sticker on my phone of his face too. It was really nice. I love picking on that boy. Thank you cards are nice. Young people, I wouldn't sidestep that. We'll be looking for them to know whether you actually appreciated it or not. I don't give looking for the thank you card. I tell you, when I get, Sister Calvin, when you get one, do you like it? Yes. Sister Place? Yeah. My wife is one of the few people, she does most of our thank you cards. She is one of the few people who, on a consistent basis, gets thank you cards for her thank you cards. That is not a joke. And I started saying, why is she getting thank you cards for her thank you cards and mine, and I'm not? So first thing, they can't read my handwriting. That was my first thought. The second thought was, I say, thank you so much for the gift. It was a real blessing, and I appreciate Pastor John. My wife starts writing. And I read hers and I read mine, and hers just bleeds. Now, mine's sincere, I promise you. Mine is sincere. Hers bleeds sincerity. So I said, okay, I'm glad you're good at that. That's now your job. But thank you. Exalted. We don't do things for thank yous. We ought to be quick to thank people. But ultimately, Noah wasn't building an ark to save his family for them to come up and say, Dad, thank you. You notice we never see Noah's family saying thank you to Dad for being a righteous man. You notice none of his sons got the blueprints. Only he just did. And he didn't quit because by faith he knew God would be exalted. Noah was doing an amazing work, but the greatest work that he did was not building an ark. I think the greatest work that Noah did was that his sons built it with him. When you really think about this, I'll just read what I've written down. The great work was the instilling of faith and his faithful walk with the Lord in his sons. So his faithful walk and his faithfulness and his faith had been instilled in his sons. Now, we don't know that they were necessarily righteous, but we do know that they believed Dad and God enough that they jumped on board and they did the work. His sons helped him build. His sons stood by him in time of persecution. Talk about peer pressure. Think about this. You're building a giant ark for a place that has never flooded, and most people believe that we have a canopy and that water had never fallen from the sky ever before, never even saw rain. And everybody's walking by going, wow. And can you imagine when they got Ham, Shem, Japheth, whoever, they got them alone, said, hey, is your dad nuts? No, my dad's not nuts. You know, those conversations probably came up. They surely heard the people laughing and scorning and cursing Noah. But they built on. His sons got on the ark. In the midst of a sin-soaked society, Noah and Mrs. Noah did a great work in establishing faith in their three sons. No greater task. Nothing greater. Billy Sunday saw thousands, tens of thousands got saved under his ministry, they say. And he wept because he lost every one of his children. Instilling faith. That's why you're here today with your children. Because this is important for them to see the faithfulness of Dad. You faithful dads, they can never forget it. Even if they tried, they won't be able to forget that on Wednesday night, no matter if I'm out at the bar or if I'm out doing this or if I'm out doing that, Daddy's going to be in church. No matter what the people say, Dad's going to be up at 5 o'clock and he's going to be pounding on that ark. And bless God, I'm not going to let Dad do it alone. Get up there and pick up the hammer. Noah did a great job. A righteous man instills faith in his children. Righteousness, which is by faith, Noah's righteousness was by faith. Ephesians 2:8, for by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Note that Noah is first called righteous in Genesis chapter 6 and verse number 9. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his excuse me. Advertisement. They should pay me. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with God. It's important that we know that he was righteous, he had great faith, and he walked with God. Ezekiel 14:14. Though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should be delivered, but their souls, excuse me, I'm going to have to skip this slide. Let's continue on. I'm not sure what's going on with my throat. Let me get on to the last couple slides here. These scriptures establish, you can go back and look at Ezekiel 14 and read 14 through 16. These scriptures establish faith as a herald that Noah preached. Nobody uses the mic, I just coughed all over it. Noah preached in that true faith and righteousness are tied. That's important. True faith and righteousness are tied together. Romans chapter 4, 3 through 5. For what saith the scripture? Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. Now to him that worketh, the reward not reckoned of grace, but of debt. But to him that worketh not, but believeth on him that justifieth the ungodly, is counted for righteousness. God delivered. Faith gave the opportunity to man. So, faith and righteousness, they're tied really close together. You place your faith in the Lord, and he makes you righteous. And Noah walked with God. He was righteous. And because of his faith, because it was counted for him as righteousness, then he had the opportunity. Some people are so far away from God. They're so far away from God. And they don't understand that that's a reason that they're not being used. If you want to be used of God, number one, grow your faith. Number two, walk with him. It all goes hand in hand, but it all pivots or balances on your faith in the Lord. Because you don't obey him? Why? Because you don't believe. Your faith is small. Brother Ross Sr. came to my dad's house and asked him, said, do you believe Something to the effect of people believe in the judgment of God, and Dr. Riker said, of course they don't. If they did, they'd live better. They'd do better. We know God will judge, and we know God will bless. But when we see Christ, this is the one thing that pushes me the most. And I've said it many times, but I really try to get you to have the picture that I have. When we see Christ and we lay our crowns at his feet, that's all we're going to be able to give him. That's all that's left. And we can't build for him. We can't do for him. Here's what we did on earth. I want to have more than a crown of righteousness, a crown of salvation to lay at his feet. I want to serve him. Maybe you're tired of serving the Lord. Maybe you're tired of not getting noticed, not getting that thank you. Go back to the faith of Noah. His faith that God will be exalted, and that's all that needs to happen. All right. Well, let's stop there. We're going to do some prayer requests.